What's up, my beautiful angels? Welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, welcome. My name is Kelly. I have 2 videos coming out every week, so just make sure you guys are subscribed down below. Also, don't forget to hit the little bell button right next to the subscribe button so you guys are notified throughout the week whenever I do upload. Also, if you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up as well. Alright, so jumping straight into today's video. Today I'm going to be giving you guys my review on the new Anastasia Subculture palette. Now, if you guys have watched any reviews on YouTube, you will know that there is a lot of controversy around this palette. Now, this palette is supposed to be the sister palette to the Modern Renaissance palette, which is like the #1 eyeshadow palette that people have in their collection. I myself have it. It is my favorite eyeshadow palette that I've ever purchased, and it's an overall amazing palette. The colors are absolutely stunning. The formula is amazing. Pretty much anything that Anastasia puts out is really, really good quality, so that is something that people do expect. So then when this came out, people were going insane because everybody loves the Modern Renaissance palette, so they were like, oh my god, I have to get my hands on this, and I was definitely one of those people. When I saw the launch of this palette, I didn't really know if I wanted it or not because a lot of the colors in here are very much out of my comfort zone, but that is a reason why I did end up purchasing it, because I feel like I do need to do that sometimes and use different colors than I'm used to so that I can kind of like get out there with my makeup, you know what I mean? So that is why I purchased this. The color scheme is absolutely beautiful. I will open the palette just to show you guys. So in case you haven't seen what the palette looks like, this is what the palette looks like. You get 13 new shades in here. The only one that's a repeat is this shade Fudge right here. Everything else is brand spanking new. And in this palette you get 3 shimmers and the rest are matte. So that is another thing that I really liked about the palette as well. I don't like to have so many shimmer options because I feel like I would rather have more mattes than shimmers, because obviously mattes are more universal, whereas shimmers you can only use them in so many ways. So I did like that this palette came with way more mattes than it did shimmers. As far as pricing goes, this palette retails for $42, which is also how much the Modern Renaissance palette retailed for. It is up there because Anastasia is a high-end makeup brand, so it is to be expected that their price is a little bit up there. It's not the most expensive palette I've ever purchased, but $42 is a lot of money just to spend on an eyeshadow palette. But again, Anastasia shadows and Anastasia products are so good that I never really mind spending the money for them. Now that that is all out of the way, I will get into how I feel about the product, and I will also show you guys swatches of the eyeshadows as well. So something that a lot of people were talking about this eyeshadow palette is that the eyeshadows don't work how Anastasia shadows typically do. And what I mean by that is the blendability wasn't as nice, the color pigmentation was amazing, but again, because it was so pigmented on people's eyes, it was skipping in certain places and the color started to look a little funky. So before I even got the eyeshadow palette in the mail, I was hearing all of these things about this eyeshadow palette. And then as far as all of the reviews go, either people seriously love this product or they seriously hate it and they'll never use it again. So I was really worried when I got this in the mail about how I was going to feel about it, how it was going to perform, and if I was going to be upset about the way that it did perform. So I cannot even tell you guys how many looks I created with this palette just so that I could use all of the shadows and really see how they work. I didn't want other people's opinions to sway me one way or another, so I did go into this with an open mind because I didn't want to have an opinion before I even started using the palette. So I did use all of the shadows in here, and I do have to say that pretty much all of what people are saying is true. These shadows don't work like normal shadows do. So again, what I mean by that is, like I already said, how people were saying that it skips in certain areas and things like that. So when you go to blend these shadows, it doesn't blend like a normal eyeshadow, like I said before. Typically when you blend an eyeshadow, it'll get like this airbrushed effect and this blown out effect, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want the color to be so distilled. You want it to blend really seamlessly, and you don't want to have any harsh edges or anything like that. And with these shadows, it's very, very very hard and nearly impossible to do that. Another thing that I noticed with these shadows is that when you apply them, depending on which colors you're using, they will appear a completely different color than what's in the pan. So if you were to use a certain color, it would end up a lot darker on the eye than intended. And that's something that I don't really appreciate, because if I'm using a certain color, it's because that's the color that I want on my eye. So when you use some of these shades, they just end up so much darker, almost black on the eyes, and it just doesn't make sense to me, because I've never had that problem before with any of my eyeshadows, and I've used so many eyeshadows from different brands, and I've never experienced something like that in my life. So it is definitely a little bit weird for that to be happening. There are some shades in here that I do really, really like and that I will probably continue using just because I really love the color of them, the pigmentation, and the blendability. But for the most part, a lot of these shadows are very hard to blend, and the pigmentation, while it's there, again, the colors change, so it's a little bit weird. Another thing that people are talking about these eyeshadows is that they have an insane amount of fallout, and I can say that that is 100% true. With the Modern Renaissance palette, there was some fallout, but it wasn't anything crazy that would deter you from using the eyeshadows. I really don't mind fallout, to be honest with you, and I don't mind kickback when you hit your brush into the pan, just because that means that the eyeshadow is a lot softer, and typically that means that it's going to be a little bit easier to blend. But with these specifically, there is like an insane amount of fallout. It's not even normal, I don't think. And I think Norvina was saying that they pressed them differently and whatever, but I still don't think that a palette should have as much fallout as these do. Now, really quick, I did swatch all of these shadows for you. I don't know if you guys can see them all just because of the way that my arm is, but these are all of the shades that are in the eyeshadow palette. They do swatch really nicely on the arm, and they look absolutely stunning when they're swatched, but again, on the eyes, they just tend to do things that are a little funky. So some of the ones that do that are this shade right here, which is called All Star. It's this really pretty purple. Again, on the skin, it looks really, really nice, but once you apply it to the eye, it tends to just look insanely dark, and I don't think that that's normal. The other two that do that are these right here, these like blue-green shades. Those tend to do that as well. The ones that I do really, really like are this one right here. This one's called Edge. It's a really pretty like mustard shade. This one right here, it's called New Wave. Again, it's just a really pretty like orange. This one right here, it's called Roxy. I absolutely love this one. And then I do really like this one right here. You're not even going to be able to see it, but it's called Cube, and it's a pink iridescent, and I absolutely love the way that it looks. So yeah, those are all the swatches of all of the colors that are included in this palette. Again, they look absolutely beautiful swatched on my arm, but again, a lot of them tend to do really, really weird things on the eyes. I absolutely hate the fact that I'm giving this not the best review ever, because I absolutely love Anastasia's products and I have never had a complaint about them in my life, and I've tried so many of their products, but this one just really fell short for me, and I feel like there's just something about this palette that's completely different. I did compare the ingredients of this palette to the Modern Renaissance palette, and I do have to say that these ingredients are completely different than the Modern Renaissance palette. I'm not sure why they completely changed the formula when they knew that that formula was amazing and that that's what people loved about it. But they did change the formula completely. Just to make a long story short, so I'm gonna name some of the eyeshadows in the Modern Renaissance palette, and I'm going to compare them to the ingredients in the Subculture palette. So we'll just do the shade Tempera, which is in here. It's the first shade right here. It's just like a simple cream color, and so the first ingredient is mica, the second is dimethicone, and then it just keeps going on. I don't know how to pronounce half of these, so I'm not even going to say their names. But then in this palette, most of the matte shades have the same formula, and the first ingredient is talc, and there's one called HDI, and then the next one is zinc stearate, and it just keeps going from there. So even just those 2-3 ingredients, you can tell that the formula is completely different, and I really don't know why they would do that when they knew that this palette was such a hit and it's such a staple in everybody's collection. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that these have different colors, and because it's a different kind of color, then the formula is going to change. I really don't know what the case is with this palette, but that is definitely probably why these perform a lot differently than the Modern Renaissance eyeshadows do. Overall, honestly, I would not recommend this to you guys. I purchased it because I thought it was going to be absolutely amazing. I thought that the colors were going to be like out of this world gorgeous on the eyes, and I do have to say that for the most part that's not the case. What you're getting in the pan is completely different from what it's going to show up like on your eyes. And just because of like the blendability and things like that, I just don't think that it's worth it. I'm sure you can find very similar colors that are in this palette as maybe like single pans from a different brand or something like that, and you can create your own look that way. But overall, I was very disappointed with this eyeshadow palette and the performance of the shadows in the palette. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps up today's video. Again, if you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below. Also, don't forget to hit the little bell button right next to the subscribe button so you guys are notified throughout the week whenever I upload, and I will see you next time. Mwah.